Good day and Assalamu alaikum. I will state this clearly and without qualification. What happened in Sydney was evil. Jewish civilians were targeted, lives were stolen, families were shattered. This is outright anti-Semitic terror and it must be condemned absolutely. There is no justification for such acts, for murdering Jews, for murdering civilians, and there is no justification in Islam for this crime at all. Jewish fear is real. Jewish trauma is real as well. And Jewish communities, they deserve protection, just like any other community. Palestinian communities, black communities, our women. In response to the Sydney attack, South African Chief Rabbi Warren Goldstein released a video claiming that this was part of a global jihadist war being waged by Islam against Jews and the West. I intend to respond to these claims, not personally, but with factual and moral analysis, as such narratives influence perceptions of entire communities. Moral clarity doesn't just end with condemnation. It requires truth. And currently, grief is being weaponized to advance a dangerous and misleading narrative. We are being told that what happened in Sydney was not a simple act of terror, but proof of global Islamic war, that Islam itself is the enemy, that Muslims everywhere are a threat, that protest equals jihad, and that political disagreement equals genocide. This constitutes propaganda in its most fundamental form. So let us deal with facts. Yes, the attackers were reportedly inspired by extremist ideology, and that ideology has used Islamic language. And it's also true that the ideology must be confronted and dismantled. But here is what is deliberately left out. ISIS is not Islam, and it is not representative of the majority of 2 billion Muslims in the world. ISIS is in fact the enemy of Muslims. ISIS has killed far more Muslims than Jews, and it has bombed mosques, executed scholars, slaughtered Muslim families. Equating ISIS with Islam is equating the Ku Klux Klan with Christianity. That's false, that's lazy, and that's dangerous. We are then told that this attack is part of a single, coordinated global jihadist war. But there's no evidence of a united global command. There's no evidence of a central operational structure of a military campaign worldwide, and nothing reported of the sort. What we see instead is something tragically familiar. Radicalized individuals, online extremist ecosystems where people feed into each other's echo chambers of extremism, ideological inspiration, but not sophisticated military operations and orchestration. But there's one fact that completely collapses the civilisational narrative that we see being unpacked here. A Muslim man, a Syrian refugee named Ahmed al-Ahmad, he ran towards the danger. He didn't ask who the victims were. He didn't ask what religion they belonged to or what their beliefs were. He didn't ask what slogans they were supporting. He acted. He confronted the attacker. He helped to subdue him and the situation. And in doing so, he saved Jewish lives. If this were a global jihad, Ahmed al-Ahmad would not exist. But he does. And his courage exposes the lie that's at the heart of this narrative. We are also told that every protest slogan, every expression of outrage over Gaza, every single Palestinian call for freedom or call for Palestinians' liberation is a call for Jewish extermination. This is intellectual dishonesty. Anti-Semitic language must be confronted wherever it appears, otherwise it leads to anti-Semitic behavior, as we've seen in Sydney. But calls for violence must be condemned unequivocally, across the board, whether against innocent children in Gaza or innocent Jews in Sydney. However, equating all criticism of Israel with genocide constitutes a deliberate attempt to suppress moral discourse. Israel can never be guilty no matter what it does. Jewish suffering is now being used to justify political absolutism. You're either with us absolutely or you're against us. Jewish trauma is being used to delegitimize disagreement. Jewish identity is being fused with state violence. And Jews are not a monolith. Judaism is not a state, and this narrative is not shared by all Jews. Many Jewish voices have warned that conflating Judaism with military power endangers Jewish communities globally. We are also told that Europe is falling, that cities are governed by the Sharia, and that civilization is collapsing in Europe. These claims are recycled fear narratives. Once it was used against the Jews, and now it's being used against the Muslims. Every era invents a civilizational enemy. Yesterday it was the Jews, today it's the Muslims. Sweeping claims are made about Iran orchestrating attacks everywhere. Allegations like this is not evidence. Investigations are undergoing and conclusions have not yet been reached. Security that we are concerned with collectively depends on facts, not speculation that's presented as absolute certainty. Here is the truth. You don't defeat extremism by lying about the reality, and you don't protect Jews by demonizing Muslims. You do not make society safer by turning grief into ideology. You defeat extremism by isolating criminals, by protecting all civilians, by refusing collective blame, and by holding on to moral consistency, even when emotions run high and even when it's against your own people. So Jewish lives matter. Muslim lives matter. Palestinian lives matter. Black lives matter. Women's lives matter. None of them are made safer by propaganda that turns the world into a permanent battlefield of hatred and war. If a society becomes unsafe for Jewish people, then it becomes unsafe for Muslim people, and it becomes unsafe for everyone. I hope and pray that our people in South Africa will not resort to acts of hatred and acts of violence, and that we will show the world how a rainbow nation can truly get along. Barakallahu fikum. Allah bless you all. Assalamu alaikum.